Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Mental Health Bar. I'm Ross. I'm a mental health counselor and I specialize in working with gamers. Today we're going to be talking about video game escapism. Is playing a video game to escape life's problem harmful for you? Does it cause problems? So let's dive in and let's check it out. And I might even get a little personal in this video myself. Lately, there's a lot of talk about being productive, staying keyed in and paying attention to basically everything that's going on in the world these days, and being creative and making the most out of your time and things like that. But if you haven't noticed, the world is kind of rough right now, to say the least. And I think we need a guilt-free way of escaping all the things that are going on in the world lately. You know, escaping things like politics, riots, murder hornets, viruses, the fact that you've gained 20 pounds over the past 4 months, the fact that I think that the next thing that 2020 is going to throw at us is that Konami is going to say that the next Silent Hill is a mobile game, but I digress. Basically, there's a lot of really rough things that are happening in the world today, and we need ways to escape those things. We can't stay keyed in all the time. We can't pay attention all the time to things that are going on externally in the world and internally within ourselves. It's impossible. So we need those forms of escapism. I mean, if we were to stay keyed in and pay attention to everything all the time, we would be super depressed all the time. We'd be super anxious all the time. We would never leave our houses. Oh, wait. All right, maybe a bad example. But so many times, I hear people say they use video games for escapism and distracting from life's problems, and they feel bad about it. Or worse, they have someone in their life that is asking them to feel bad about it or having them feel shame about it. So why do gamers get shamed for the way that they kind of escape life's problems or distract themselves? You know, I think it has something to do with the fact that the way that we distract ourselves and the way that we do escapism is because it just looks like we're just playing something or we're wasting time. When really I think other people are kind of doing this, but they kind of have this plausible deniability. What we're doing isn't as obvious how we're helping ourselves and how we're distracting ourselves or how we're kind of coping with things. Other people kind of have this way that they can kind of say something along the lines of, or I'll say other people, but non-gamers, I'll put it that way. But some folks can actually just say, hey, I'm watching the news 24/7 so I can keep up with the current events. You know, they can say that. Other people can say that they're educating themselves and they're learning when they're watching the 500th Murderer documentary on Netflix. These things can be just as much of a waste of time as running around collecting rings for whatever reason with Sonic. The truth is, gaming can be a great way of escaping and distracting yourself from life's problems. In fact, for some people, it can be their only way of escaping and distracting themselves. And for those people, sometimes I would actually say it could be causing harm to tell them to stop gaming. And an example that I'll have is, say if there's a child who is, you know, their parents are arguing all the time or something like that, or maybe one of their parents is downright abusive or an alcoholic, and that kid goes to play video games to feel safe, to feel confident, to feel liked because maybe it's an online game and they have friends on there or something on those lines. Like, I would never ask that child to stop playing video games if that's the situation that they're in and they're using video games as a way to distract themselves or escape from a really hard situation. I'll even use myself as an example. Not too long ago, I left an abusive relationship. I was involved in it for a pretty long time, and it took a long time for me to get the courage to leave. While I was in this process, I started to play the video game Firewatch. Now, for those of you that don't know, Firewatch is a game where you play Henry. You're a guy whose wife comes down with early onset dementia, and to kind of get away from this really painful situation, your character Henry goes into the woods of, I think, Wyoming, and becomes a Firewatch for a summertime. And it's very isolating. It's a very isolative experience right there. And he engages in a friendship with his supervisor. And there were a lot of things in this game that I really loved. I really loved the voice acting. I really loved the artwork, things that just really brought me into the game and just took me out of what was going on in my life at that time. But what I think really stayed with me was this theme or this message of it's hard to say goodbye. And I don't know if that's what the developers were trying to convey intentionally to me as the gamer, but it's one of the things that I really took away with the experience of the game. Now, I'm not saying that I put down Firewatch, and I immediately went and ended this relationship, and I walked away, and I was really courageous. No, it didn't work like that necessarily. But Firewatch gave me time to kind of reflect. It gave me time to be with myself. It gave me time to be in this lush, beautiful environment and be engaged with these two characters, but also eventually get closer to a feeling that I was having a hard time with in my own world, which was this feeling of knowing I needed to say goodbye, knowing that it had to be time to move on. Again, not sure if that's what the developers were intending, but it's something that I got out of it. And I look at this game and playing this game as kind of like a bridge point or a bridge path for me to start getting the courage to leave that relationship that I was in that was causing me so much pain. The problem with video game escapism, and a lot of forms of escapism for that matter, is that it can turn into avoidance of feelings and avoidance of emotions, which then can translate into an addiction, perhaps. Doesn't happen all the time. That's the thing. I don't like it when people say like, oh, he's gaming or she's gaming or something like that. This is going to turn into addiction. It doesn't always do that. And that's why I don't like to kind of say like everyone that plays games like this, and this are addicted. They could just be experiencing something inside of themselves that's really hard for them to deal with, and they're escaping something, but you got to eventually come back to it. You can't avoid it all the time, And I know it's hard, trust me. I know it's hard to kind of, be feeling really strong things like sadness and anger and frustration and self-loathing or something like that, regardless of what it's coming from. Or whatever the external thing that's happening in life is causing a lot of sadness or distress or depression or anxiety or something like that. It's really hard to deal with those things. I'm not denying that. But we are resilient. Human beings are super resilient, and you're resilient too. You can look at these emotions. It can be difficult. You can look at sadness. You can look at anxiety. You can look at these things. And you can sit with them, and you can be with them. And you can work through them introspectively and through a lot of inner work. You can do this. And you can do this with a therapist, which is always the best way of going about things, in my opinion, is just working through it with somebody that you trust. But you can work through these things. And just because you use video games as an escapism and a distraction, that's not a bad thing. But you don't want to avoid things, because when you avoid problems, those problems grow. And I know it can be scary, but I kind of want to channel my psychology professor from back in undergrad. He said, it's okay to be scared, just don't be scared away. And I want to end this video on a quote from a book that I'm reading called Lost in a Good Game. When we're sad, playing games can make us feel better, or at least give us a chance to connect with our friends in the online world. If we are playing the right game, it can help us to possess and understand things going on in the offline world, empowering us in the choices that we make. Games might not fix anything, and there are definitely questions to be asked about what happens if we distract ourselves too deeply with them. But maybe sometimes, if we need to escape, getting lost in a good game can offer us temporary respite from our troubles by giving us something we feel we have control over. Thank you again for watching this video, and thanks to those who have subscribed already. Please like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and the YouTubes and all that kind of stuff right there. I'm still learning the YouTube lingo, so bear with me there. And let me know down in the comments what you think about these videos and what kind of videos you want to see in the future. Alright, till next time, thank you. This is Mental Health Bar.